Hi everyone and welcome to our monthly webinar. Today we're continuing our security series. Our subject is optimizing multi-cloud security with Microsoft Defender for Cloud. I'm Andreas Abi Khalil, partner and program manager at Ampio Solution and your moderator for the day. Before I hand you to today's presenters, I would like to mention our rules of engagement for this webinar. This webinar is recorded and will be available on demand. Please reach out to your partner or direct contact onto the team to gain access to it. For questions, leverage the Q&A feature in your top toolbar. We will dedicate time at the end of this webinar to answer them. Our featured speakers for today's webinar are Joseph Khalaf, the president of Ampli Solution, and our Microsoft MVP, Eli Karkrafi. Team, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Andreas. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Thank you, everybody, for attending this webinar today. The focus of today's webinar is going to be Microsoft Defender for Cloud and how you optimize your multi-cloud security strategy with the Defender. So before I get going, there's one thing I'd like to bring up, which is a lot of our customers that are invested in security, that do work on, ensure that they have a secure environment, sometimes raise an eyebrow when we use the term Microsoft and security, because obviously Microsoft is a little bit newer to the game. There are a lot of other proven providers, ISVs, OEMs out there that actually do a phenomenal job at security. And that's very true. But there is something very important I'd like to bring up, which is those 4 solution designations are what we are. There are 6 of them. And the Microsoft Partner Program is getting revamped. The 3 that I highlight right here are going to get consolidated and moved around. I can't speak to how they're going to do it. We really don't know just yet how they're going to do it. But what's important is to understand that Microsoft Security, that specialization, that solution designation is staying as its own designation. And the reason I bring this up is to highlight the commitment that Microsoft is making to security and to how much they're going to put in to ensure that their products are competing in the Magic Quadrant of the Gartner Magic Quadrant. I've gotten this slide from Microsoft. This is obviously a list of customers that have invested in a Microsoft security stack and Microsoft Defender for Cloud. It's the big names here that are betting that the Microsoft security stack will keep them protected, will keep them secure, will keep them safe. In addition, Microsoft has invested internally in a lot of engineering and a lot of research when it comes to security. They have 8,500 plus engineers and researchers focused on security. We'll talk about that in a little bit here, but their AI strategy is also very thoughtful when it comes to security and how to use AI for security. Those are some numbers here that will give you an idea of how much time, effort, and investment they're putting into protecting their customers, protecting identities, protecting endpoints, protecting the whole technology landscape. So let's talk about today's world, right? So those are numbers that I think will kind of make you stop and think a little bit. 95% of all IT initiatives are cloud-based this year. So everything is really cloud-based. This is the world we live in. 87% of those are actually multi-cloud. And even though there are customers that potentially are very, very heavily invested in Azure or in Microsoft 365, and that's, music to our ears. We love it. We're a Microsoft partner. But it's almost impossible to find a customer that doesn't have some sort of a footprint in some other cloud provider. And you don't need to think about the big providers, like, thinking about, oh, well, they're not an AWS. Yeah, there might not be an AWS, but they have some sort of a footprint in some other cloud. On average today, enterprises are developing 500 plus applications. And when we talk about applications, this is not necessarily talking about they have developers that are cranking out code. Application development is no longer just the traditional, let me, fire up Visual Studio and write a custom app. Application development today is any sort of innovation on top of a platform. That's application development. It could be a no-code solution. 82% of breaches happen against cloud platforms. It's the easiest to get to. And I know that's why a lot of customers say, well, that's why I want to stay on premises, but that's not really the solution. And we'll get to that in a little bit. 54% of organizations do not include security, do not think through the security. That's not the baseline approach to when they're innovating, when they're trying to build applications. And the rising cost of data breach, 4.45 million is the average cost of data breach. Whenever a customer comes to us and says, I don't want to pay for this license or that license, our argument is always, trust me, it's cheaper to do it that way than to wait until you're breached or until there's some sort of a leak in your environment. And the attack surface is just getting larger by the minute. It's so broad. You have devices, you have identities, you have your data. There's stuff everywhere. And you are at risk from wherever you are using whatever device. You're always at risk, and you always have to be careful, and you always have to be adjusting. It's dynamic, it's growing, innovations happening rapidly, and you have to be thoughtful about security across your whole footprint. So those are just the things that we think about when it comes to cloud, right? When it comes to, Defender. So we want to protect the identity. We want to protect the individual. We want to protect their device. We want to protect the devices. And then on the other side, you have the data that they generate, the data that the company generates, the applications that are being created, the infrastructure as a whole, and then the network. All of this must be protected. All of this is something that we need to think through, and we need to ensure that Defender is actually attaching to each and every one of those and securing each and every one of those objects or parts of the equation. So Defender. The beauty of Defender is that it is, and again, I don't want to take away from other providers, but we're here to talk about Microsoft Defender and how far along it's come and the maturity and the innovation that's been created, right? The beauty of Defender is that it will cover the gamut. It will cover a multi-cloud environment. It gives you visibility into multi-clouds. It's not just for Microsoft. It's just not to protect Azure and 365 and Windows, right? It could go and reach across to another platform by another provider. The beauty of it is that it will unify your security standards and policies. So you're not scattered all over the place. You could have a single, think of it as a single pane of glass that unifies across all of your investments, and you look at it holistically, and you identify it, and you apply policies in one fell swoop. It's innovative enough to fortify sensitive data across those clouds, whether you're in AWS, whether you're in Azure, whether you're in Google, it'll do that. It also will mitigate code risks. So what that really means is that when you are developing, you can have Defender, and we'll get to that in a little bit. You'll have Defender actually identify what you're missing or where you're leaving holes. And finally, it'll prioritize remediation, meaning, look, we could protect all day long. Nobody is going to tell you that there's 100% guarantee that there's not going to be some sort of anomaly or some sort of a breach. Attackers are on the hunt all day long. What's important is that I'm minimizing the risk, but what's also is important is that if and when there is that risk that crosses the boundary and gets to me, that I'm immediately addressing it and I'm immediately remediating so that I'm not leaving myself exposed for long periods of time. And I'm immediately identifying those malicious actors and going after them and getting them out of my environment. So Microsoft, again, as we see at the bottom here, and I wanna focus a little bit on the right-hand side here. This is not Microsoft Defender isn't just for cloud. It will actually cover you on-prem. So I would say probably close to 100% of our customers, while invested in the cloud, they just haven't completely walked away from their on-premises investments. And you want to be able to do that. You want to be able to protect them on-prem. Just because you're behind a firewall doesn't mean you don't need Defender. So you can also cross those boundaries across all of the cloud landscape that you have, and then also protect yourself on premises. And finally, the beauty of this, if you look at the right, when you respond and automate, it's important for us to tell our customers that when you're automating responses, or when you're responding, Defender isn't holding you hostage to using Microsoft products, right? It allows you to go and leverage other products to respond. And we have a bunch here, but it will integrate with a lot of third-party ISVs for users that choose to do that, or that have invested in third-party products. So this is one that actually, and Eli will get to that later on if you have questions about it, but this is one that actually was amazing when I first saw it. So, obviously AI is the big buzz. And then I personally have heard about Copilot for security. I just didn't know what it was. I'm like, oh, maybe Copilot will do the security work. But if you look at this screenshot, the beauty of Copilot for security is that, and this is a very meaningful screenshot, even though it's small, but let me tell you why. We get inundated with data. Yes, dashboards are great, reports are great, but reports are also overwhelming. And when you're and Defender, in all fairness, because of how mature it is, sometimes it is overwhelming to look at all that data. The beauty of Copilot for security is that you have an assistant that is telling you what you should focus on, and how you should prioritize, and how you should remediate and protect when it comes to all of these reports. If you look at the screenshot, you will see that Copilot on the right-hand side for security is actually looking at the report for you. It's your assistant. It's your SecOps employee, if you will, that is telling you to go in and say, look, there's a VM here. Please go address this immediately. I see something really here very, very nefarious. Go ahead and address it. Go ahead and fix it. So Copilot for security, and it's learning all the time. It's learning all the time. And it's your assistant to help you prioritize and remediate in a very, very expeditious fashion. So the other beauty of Defender for Cloud is that Microsoft has invested quite a bit in governance, in regulatory compliance. If you're a healthcare provider, you have requirements that don't look the same as if you're a financial provider. SEC and FINRA isn't HIPAA. What about government at the federal level, state and local government? Defender for Cloud, if you look at the screenshot also, will actually, Microsoft continues to invest in keeping up with all of the legislation and all of the rules and compliance and regulations that are required for you to comply with all these standards. And when you go push Defender for Cloud out there, you could tell it, I want to be compliant in this space. I'm a hospital. I need to be HIPAA compliant. I'm a investment. I'm a public company. I need to be SEC compliant. All of this is so templatized within the Microsoft Defender for Cloud ecosystem that you can immediately find out where you're failing, and it helps you pass and obviously ensure that you are not failing compliance requirements for your industry. The Security Explorer here, I think I won't talk much about this, but one of the nice things about this is that this is for maybe a little more geeky for people that love to go look at stuff like that. But you could actually, using the Explorer, you could actually go in and tell Defender, say, listen, please give me a list of building criteria. Give me a list of all these services, all these virtual machines that have a public IP, and tell me if this port is open, or tell me if this patch is installed, or tell me this or tell me that. And you could build this criteria and provide a little more granular and meaningful reporting so you could address or remediate. And this is actually a great tool to help you, not be so inundated with all these large reports and tackle things in bite size. So let's talk about Defender for Storage a little bit. Defender for Storage, Detection Suite. So the beauty of this is we talk about it, and Ilika talk about this a little bit later here about it tracking suspicious access patterns, because protecting your data is important. Protecting your blob storage, protecting your Azure files, even though your data is within the Microsoft ecosystem, at least it's encrypted at rest. You still want to protect access to it. You still want to ensure who's getting to that data and why they're getting to that data. And a Defender for Storage allows looks for suspicious patterns, suspicious activities, and then also keeps track of any content, any potentially malicious content being uploaded up to your storage platforms. Obviously, this is just a diagram that shows the threats in cloud-based storage, and this is a matrix that'll show you what Defender for Storage actually is protecting, what it's looking at, and how it's always learning and trying to go after proactively anything that does not look right when it comes to storage. And then obviously alerts. Alerts are very important. Those are things we use here often. Sometimes they're false positives, but the beauty of the Defender for Storage alerts is that you could actually tweak those, and you could increase the alerts. I know sometimes you get too much noise, but there are in a security operations world, alerts are important. It's important. That's what SecOps engineers do, is to look at alerts and identify if they should act upon that alert or not. So finally, when we talk about multi-cloud, right? Mike, if you are a multi-cloud customer or a partner that also encourages customers to invest in AWS, this is the one, the second biggest player, if you will. You're not limited. There are no limitations, right? With Azure Arc, you could actually provision these servers. You can bring them into Azure Arc, and you could actually defend, secure these workloads in a third-party at a third-party cloud provider like AWS. And Microsoft is investing quite a bit in ensuring that they cover the gamut when it comes to AWS, and they provide you the same security and the same robustness and maturity that you will get if your workloads were in Azure, let's say. This is just a diagram that shows just the plethora of what Defender can cover. It's covering almost everything. It's covering your AWS, it could cover your Google, it could cover all of your workloads within Azure, across the board, DevOps, containers. I didn't want to go into the details of containers here, but it's anything, functions, logic apps, you name it. If the service lives in Azure, Microsoft Defender will cover it. And if your service or workload lives in AWS or another provider like Google Cloud, Defender will cover the majority of it. And Defender continues to bring in these additional services to mature that offering across all of the cloud providers. Finally, I think this is relevant to people that look, we all live within budgets. We all have to worry about our spend. It's really hard to justify spending a lot of money on an insurance policy when you've never gotten into an accident. But when you live in the cloud, the only way you can avoid an accident is to invest in security, is to go in and invest in Defender. These are just numbers. And you could read the full study. We'll share this slide deck later. But these are numbers about that showcase the return on your investment, what you're preventing from happening when you invest in security in Defender. And finally, also some additional numbers here about organization security. Average cost of breaches, this is a little old, so for 2021, but the cost is high. It's always high. And I know customers, we got a lot of customers that come to us that actually have insurance policies for that. Good, great, you should. But insurance providers are also no longer covering customers unless they have a meaningful security implementation in place. The great example from a couple of years ago, back in 2021, actually, is that across the board, insurance companies stopped or forced their customers to implement multi-factor authentication before they provide them a policy. And these insurance companies are getting more sophisticated to where now they're demanding more and more security artifacts implemented in your environment. And by the way, we also know a few insurance companies, that actually will discount you based on your security posture and your security maturity. So from a business perspective, from an expenditure perspective, you could actually save money on premiums and divert that cost over to ensuring that you have a very mature security posture. Like I said, yes, it costs money to buy these products. Yes, it costs money to implement and manage these products, but it's a lot less than being at risk and exposing yourself to a security breach or a security incident. With that being said, I'll hand it back to Andreas.
Awesome. Thank you, Joe, for the wonderful presentation. I have a question of my own before we jump into the questions of the people. You talked about alerts, and having spent so much time with alerts in Microsoft, I know that they are a little bit overwhelming. Is there involvement of Copilot that helps with those alerts? Because I've heard that AI is supporting to understand what alerts are relevant and what alerts are not. Is that something that is out in the market or not yet?
I'm going to let Eli take that because he's more
Yes.
technical than me. Yeah.
Okay, so yes, there is something out, and it is security for Copilot actually. And as Joe mentioned before, it's your stock analyst assistant. Security Copilot, when you have an incident or any alert related to that incident, will help you to prioritize which incident I should take care of, and taking into consideration that if this incident involved any critical assets in your environment. And for sure, Defender for Cloud will help you to identify which critical assets are in your environment based on the activity that is happening on those machines. So yes, Security Copilot is the answer for your question.
Our first question from the people attending: how does Microsoft Defender for Cloud integrate with other Microsoft security solutions to provide a unified security posture across hybrid and multi-cloud environments?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So Defender for Cloud actually works seamlessly with other Microsoft tools. As Joe mentioned before, when we say unified or single pane of glass, now all the incident and alert that you can see in Defender for Cloud in an Azure portal are being sent also to Microsoft XDR portal. And also you can send all the logs and all the signals from Microsoft Defender for Cloud to Sentinel and build on top of those log like analytic rule to like monitor or to analyze the behavior of all the cloud resources in your environment and come up with incident and build like automation rule on top of them using logic apps or security playbooks in order to automate the response and remediation in that case. Also, Microsoft Defender for Cloud integrate with Microsoft Entra ID because it's help you also secure the authentication and help you to set the role access-based control on those resources through the Entra user that is using those resources. Moreover, when it comes to data governance and compliance, and as Joe mentioned before, when you want to be compliant against a specific standard like HIPAA, Microsoft, in collaboration with the Microsoft Purview product, it helps you to classify and protect your sensitive data using Purview. So, for example, if you have a storage account that contains a lot of sensitive information, such as credit card or password or any type of IP addresses, automatically Defender for Cloud will scan those data on that storage account and will classify them and will show you in the report that, listen, you have a storage account containing those data, go ahead and start classifying them to protect them from any attacks. Also, Microsoft Defender for Cloud sent all the signals from like the servers, for example, to Defender for Endpoint, and all the security policies that you have in place for those servers onboarded to Defender for Endpoint will be applied to all the protected resources on Azure. So that's in like this quick recap how Defender for Cloud can be seamlessly integrated. And I forgot also, you can integrate Defender for Cloud in ServiceNow. And in ServiceNow, you can create like tickets and incidents for the help desk team who's taking care of those incidents in collaboration between Defender for Cloud and ServiceNow. Thank you.
Awesome. What are the key features and benefits of using Microsoft Defender for Cloud to protect containerized applications?
Yeah, for the clients that are building applications that are containerized within Kubernetes cluster. So one of the big features in Defender for Cloud is the security posture management, which allow you to monitor all the Kubernetes workload clusters. And even if the Kubernetes are using APIs or any cloud APIs connecting to those Kubernetes, it performs a contextual, let's say, risk assessment and enhanced risk counting across those containers. And also, it runs like a ongoing vulnerability assessment on those container images and registries that are the core of your containers and your cluster Kubernetes workload, including even the OS and the language packages that are running on those containers. And one of the amazing features in Defender for Cloud is the deployment, the gate deployment, which actually, when you are pushing any image containerized to your environment, Defender for Cloud automatically scan it before it's allow you to upload it to your environment.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Eli. Thank you so much, Joe. We will conclude our security chapter next month with the Sentinel webinar. Stay on the lookout for our post-webinar email for additional information. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.